Hi everyone, good evening. Am I audible to you? Let me know if I am audible through the chat. Okay, thank you. Right, we'll wait for about 5 minutes and we'll get started. Okay, right. So if your friends are not here, you can share the link with them. You can ask them to join. And also, yes, so I think those who haven't received the materials, so I have been shared the materials to the students, especially the mind map, short notes, and also I have shared them the classified past paper, and along with that model paper I have sent this to the students. Those who shared my poster, so in case if there's anyone who didn't receive the materials, you can text me later to this number. Okay, you can text me later to this number. After the session I will send you the materials. Okay, so I will have time after the session, because while I'm in the session, I can't send you the materials. So you can just drop me a text to this one. I will send you. Yeah, you can send a message to this number if you haven't received the materials. Okay. Right. So let's get started with the lesson. So we have to start our first unit of grade 10, which is a biology lesson. And I will say this lesson is very important for your first term. It's very, 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 very important for your first term grade 11 exam. But if I say if you really need this lesson for your O levels, not much. Especially the pictures are very important, especially the diagrams. So diagrams are very important when it comes to your grade 11 first term. So grade 11 first term, grade 11 unit 1. So when it comes to the biology, one of the easiest lesson I would say. So unit 1 and unit 2 of your grade 11, it's all about biology. It's all about interesting. You will like it. You will understand a lot. But you shouldn't by heart. Okay, so biology is not about by hearting. So I have seen many people, they by heart the definition, they don't remember it even though they by heart, because it's not you give your input to understand. So all what we are going to learn is the shortest way to understand the lesson and also to remember the lesson forever. Right? Okay, so let's get started. So today our lesson is about what? So our new lesson, the first unit, it's an interesting lesson. That's about the living tissue. So you are going to study about what? Living tissues, right? So before we go to the lesson, I will explain you why we need to learn about the heading. So the heading matters. So whenever we study something, heading matters. So listen to me very, very carefully so you will understand. At the same time, once I explain a certain part, I will ask whether you understood or you didn't understand. At that point, you can shoot out your doubt while I'm explaining. In case if you send me any messages, I won't be able to see it because I'm always focusing on the content that I have to teach you. Because in case if I see your messages and I will get the idea to reply you, while that I will forget what to teach the next. So this is something I'm always focusing, right? Okay, so let's get started. So listen to me very, very carefully. So it's interesting. I don't want to take it boring. So listen to me very carefully. So in science, when we talk about the word living, when it's grade 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you always use a scientific term in order to say what? For the living, we call it as organism. We call it as organism. So when we say organism, we need to understand all the living things in the nature. We call it as organism. It can be the category of plants. It can be the category of animals. It can be the category of the microorganism. So these are the three categories which will fall under organism. So when we take organism, I think you can recall your memory, okay? When you recall your memory, can you remember in unit 6, okay? In unit 6 of your grade 10 and unit 8 of your grade 10, you learned something. What did you learn in grade 10 biology lesson? Unit 6, unit 8, you studied something. So when you take any organisms, they are made up of what? Our body is made up of what? We all of us are made up of cells. We all of us are made up of the simplest unit in our body is cell. So just think, when we have to build up an organism, let's say human, let's say you are going to create a human. Now first we'll study how the tissue came, okay? So before that we have to understand the concept of this lesson. So listen to me very carefully. Now say, I want to build a house, okay? I want to build a house. Like I'm saying, I'm going to build a human. So if I want to build a human, let's say I'm going to, in contrast, I'm going to build house. I'm going to build a house and human here. So listen to me very carefully. Now when I say human, what is the simplest you need to create an organism? You said it's a cell. When you take the house, what is the simplest unit that is needed to create the house? We can say it is a brick. So can one brick create you? I mean, can one brick create your house? Can one cell create you? No. So what has to happen? Now say, if I take the brick and if I organize, I will create a wall. Same like that. If I take the cells and if I organize the cells in a group, what I will create? I will create a tissue. So what is the definition of tissue? How did the tissue created? Group of cells. A group of cells. So a group of cells, you call it as a tissue. If you have one cell, you call it as a cell. When you see a group of cells, we call it as tissue. So when you pile up the group of brick, you create a wall. Now what is happening? Once you create a tissue, let's say, now you keep all the tissues together. Like you keep the walls. Let's say you are keeping the walls in a way. So what are you creating? You are creating your, let's say you are creating a foundation, the shape of your house. You are creating the shape of your house while you pile up and you connect all the walls. So when you connect all the walls, you are creating the shape of your house. So same like that, when you connect the tissues in a group, you are creating what? Organs. You are creating organs. So let's say now all the walls are connected. You have created. Now what are you doing? You have to just put only the roof. Now finally, what did you create? You created your house. So you have created your house. So same like that, when I connect all the organs, I am creating a system. So when you have all the systems together, what are you creating? You are creating a organism. You are creating an organism. Now, what is this? What is this? The order, how the human is created. We call it as what? What do we call it as? We call it as organizational level, cellular. We can say it's a organisms organizational level. So organisms organizational level means, what do you mean by that? How an organism is being created. So you studied this in what? Unit 8. In Unit 6, you understood your body is made up of what? It is made up of cell. So some organisms are made up of one cell. Some organisms, they are made up of two or more cells, which you call it as unicellular organism, multicellular organism, or you studied in the Unit 6 and then you study the hierarchy of the organism in Unit 8. So you know that. You know that very well. So what is our heading is about? Our heading is about tissue. Our heading is about tissue. So now let's focus to the definition of the tissue. Let's focus to the definition of the tissue. So before we go to that, let me know, did you understand the hierarchy of the organism? Yes, hierarchy in the sense, it's the order of how, the level of order, the level. So starting, it comes from the cell, combination of cells, tissues, combination of tissues, organs, combination of organs. It comes as a system, combination of system, it becoming an organism. So level order of your, how your body is created. So that's, we call it as hierarchy. Okay, or we can call it as organizational level of organism. Also, we can call it as, right? Okay, so now listen to me very carefully. Now, you know what? In your first term, in your unit paper, let's say your teacher is going to give unit test in your exam. I mean, it's going to be in the mid of the January. Once she complete the lesson, sometimes some teachers, they give, in some schools, they give unit test, or they will give you monthly test. So remember, in unit test or monthly test, they will always ask you the definition. They will always ask you the definition. But when it comes to the term paper, it's going to be different. They will give you the definition. They will ask you to identify what is it, what is that. So in this lesson, you have to focus on the diagrams very well and some of the features very well. So features, diagrams, Very, very, very important. So, but before we go to those part, let's understand what is a tissue, right? So first, let me explain you how we are born, okay? How we are born. So I will just compare both of them so you will not forget the definition. So listen to me. Now let's say, now when I simply ask what is a tissue, you will say what? Combination of what? Several cells. Or you can say what? Group of cells. So tissue, in your simple word, you can say what? Group of cells. Group of cells. Now, the definition is something like this. Now, let's say, now your parents are there, right? Now your parents has been created you. Now you born. Now what is your function? Now why did you born? Why did you born? So you have a certain function to be performed. It can be as a student, it can be as the son or a daughter of the family, it can be as whatever it is. So you born for what? To perform what? To perform a specific function. So if you are here to create or to perform specific function, so that is the reason you are created and you are brought to this world, right? Same like that. Same like that. So this group of cells, what are they doing is they are modified. Modified in the sense, now let's say this type of group of cells, this type of group of cells, like different type of group of cells, they will create different types of tissues to do the certain different functions. So that is what we say it as what? Modified. Modified. So they are modified. So a group of cells with a common origin. So you have to know the word with a common origin. Now we all of us born from mother, right? So you born from your mother, I born from your mother, I born from my mother. So different people, they all came from the same way from their mothers. So which means you have to understand these cells will be with the common origin. They all are created with the same specific way. Same specific way they are be created. We call it as with the common origin. They all are equal. They all are equal. So what is our definition? Group of cells modified to perform, or we can say group of cells with a common origin modified to perform specific function, that you call it as what? You call it as tissue. So what do you mean by tissue? What's the definition? Do you want to by heart? Just understand it's a group of cells with a common origin modified to perform what? Specific function, that you call it as what? You call it as tissue. So how many types of tissues are inside our body? Around 210 types of tissues is present in our body. So that means if I say, if I have 210 types of tissue in my body, in the sense, what do you mean by that? How many types of cells should I have? I should have 210 types of the cells. So let's say if I have this kind of cells like this is a one type. They will create one tissue. Let's say this is one cell like this. I'm just making you to understand. This is another type of cell. They will create another type of tissue. So the number of cells will give you the number of tissues. Did you understand? Did you understand? Clear with that? Got the idea? Understood? Got it? Before we go to the next part? Yes. Right. Great. So listen to me. Okay. So now when we talk about the tissues, so listen to me. Now when we are talking about tissues in our grade 11 first chapter, you are going to study about two types of tissues. Okay. You are going to study about how many types of tissues. If you take the tissues under the tissues, you will study one type of tissue. It's about the plant tissue. Then you will be studying about the animal tissue. So now we are going to study about the plant tissue, and then we will come to the animal tissue, right? So the plant tissue is something you have to understand very carefully. So listen to me carefully. I will ask you some questions because this question has been appeared in your term papers. Your past term papers, they have asked this kind of questions. So by based on that questions only, I am asking you, I'm teaching you certain things that will be helpful for your term paper. So listen to me carefully from the question that I'm asking. Now let's say there is a plant. Okay, let's say there is a plant. Now if I take the plant, okay, if I take the plant and I'm focusing on the plant root of the plant. So this is the plant root, this is the soil, okay? So this is the soil and this is going to be the plant root, which is the taproot, which is the taproot. Now listen to me and tell me this part of the, you have to tell me, okay? I don't know whether you have plucked any grass. I don't know whether you have any plucked any small plants. So you might have seen the colors in the roots. So I wanted to know, now if I take this part of the plant root and if I take the tip part of the plant root, tell me, what can you see? I mean, this part of the plant root, will it be light colored or dark colored? Will it be light colored or dark colored? Let me give you a hint. Let me give you a hint. Now say, if a part, now let's say in the part of the root, let's say this part of the root is growing newly. So if this part of the plant is growing newly means every time the tip of the root is only one who grows. Who grows. So if it's growing, will it be dark colored or will it be light colored? So new things will be old or light. If something is growing new, it will be old. I mean, it will be dark colored or light colored. Very good. It will be light colored. Okay. Now think, a new baby is born in your family. Now this baby, will it be, what can you say? Will it be very, I mean, it will be light colored or will it be very dark like the old person's skin? What do you think? It will be dry or what? So if you take the baby, it will be always light. Why? It's new to the world. So think about this part. So this part is considered as the old part of the root, which will be what colored? It will be dark colored. Now listen to me. Now listen to me carefully. Now what is happening is, now think this is going to be the baby part of the root. And let's say this is going to be the adult part of the root. Now you have to understand the light colored part of the plant is a baby part of the plant where you see the light color, soft skin and all of them. Now what is happening day by day, day by day, day by day, this part of the root will be older, 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 older. It will become matured. It will become dark. This is what is happening. So, if I talk about the plant tissue, according to the two types, you will be divide the plant tissue into two types. One part of the tissue, we call it as meristematic tissue. So that means the softest baby part of the root, we call it as meristematic tissue. Meristematic tissue. So you have to remember the spelling. It's very important. I'll write it over here. So you can write the baby part of the plant. We call it as meristematic tissue. So meristematic tissue is a one type of a plant tissue. Then what is this darkest part of the plant? The adult tissue of the plant. What do we call it as? We call it as permanent tissue. We call it as what? Permanent tissue. So what are the two types of plant tissue you are going to study? Meristematic tissue and permanent tissue. So listen to me carefully. This is where the definition becomes very important. So listen to me. I will teach you what is there in your grade 10. Your grade 10 lesson will be connected to this first unit of your grade 11. So I'll teach you how this is being connected. Okay, so listen to me very carefully. Now I'm asking a question from you. Now let's say there is a baby, right? There is a baby. Now let's say the baby is born 2 kg. It's born 2 kg. Now, after, let's say, once the baby become an adult, let's say he or she has come to the 16 years old. So what will be the weight? Will the weight will be increased or will the weight will be decreased? Will be have been increased or decreased? What can you say? The person's height, weight, everything increased. So what do you call this as? You studied in grade 10? Unit 6, Unit 8. You studied. What do you say? What do you say? If the person's height and the weight is increased, you call it as growth. You call it as growth. So now we have to study about the meristematic tissue in detail, permanent tissue in detail based on the growth. So we have to understand whether the baby will have the growth or whether adult person will have the growth. So now we are talking about the tissue, right? So tissue is made up of what? It is made up of the cells. It is made up of what? It is made up of cells. So since it is made of cells, we will be talking about the cell growth. We will be talking about what? We will be talking about the cell growth. So first, let's study about the cell growth and we'll come back. Okay, so listen to me. Before we talk about the meristematic tissue, before we talk about the permanent tissue, we have to do a recap of your grade 10. Listen, now I told you there is a light colored part of the root and dark colored part of the root. The light colored becomes dark colored after some days, right? Why? Because there is a growth. Same like that, the 1-year-old baby becomes 16-year-old. Why? There is a growth. So that means if a tissue has to be defined, you have to define the tissue by the growth. So we know that the tissue is made up of what? It is made up of cells. So now you have to study about what? The cell growth. So you have to study about the cell growth and we have to understand how is these things are happening. We have to understand how is these things are happening. Now you was 2 kg. Now you might be what? You might be 50 kg. Okay, you might be 50 kg. We don't know. So, but how did 2 kg become 50 kg? You can see there was an increase in the weight, which means your cells started to multiply, which means your new cells started to produce more. They started producing more cells. So when the number of cells are increasing in your body, your muscle mass will be increasing. You will become bigger. So this is what is happening. So now we have to carefully learn how is this cell is affecting the plant tissue, right? Okay, right. So listen to me very carefully. This is what you have to understand. Now remember, there is 2 types of plant tissue. One we call it as meristematic tissue. Other one we call it as what? We call it as permanent tissue. But before we study about those tissues, you have to understand about the cell growth and cell division. So where did we learn the cell growth and cell division? Yes, where did we learn cell growth and cell division? You learned in the unit where? Unit 6 of your grade 10. So unit 6 of your grade 10, you studied about the cell growth and cell division. So listen to me very carefully. Now let's say there is a cell. Okay, there is a cell. Now this cell is a small. Let's say this cell is a immature cell. So after some days, what's happening to the cell? The cell will grow to a certain size. This is the reality. So you will have small cells. The cell will grow to a certain size where it will become a matured cell. It will become a matured cell. Now, what do we call this process as? What do we call this process as? If the cell is growing to a certain size with the dry mass, we call it as what? We call it as cell growth. Now, just say
Let's take our life example. Now let's say there is a baby. This baby is growing to an adult. Now what will this adult will do? He will get married to another person and they will also reproduce a new offspring. So this is what is happening, right? Same thing is happening with the cell, but cell is not getting married. It is reproducing new cells. Let's see how is that. So once the cell has become what? Once the cell has become matured, they will undergo a process. We call that process as what? We call it as cell division. We call it as cell division. In your grade 10, unit 6, what are the two types of cell division you learned? What are the two types? One is mitosis cell division. Other one is what? Meiosis cell division. So tell me the functions of this meiosis and mitosis. Where will they appear? Now remember, mitosis cell division will be appearing during asexual reproduction. So asexual reproduction means what? Usually who does the asexual reproduction? Plants. So that means in the plant tissue, what kind of a cell division is taken place? Mitosis cell division. So what kind of cell division is taken place? Mitosis cell division. Meiosis, where will the meiosis will appear? During sexual reproduction. So if they are going to produce a new gamete if they're going to produce a new gamete, sperm and the ovum, at that time, meiosis cell division will be working. So mitosis cell division, it will help you to do the wound replacement and also asexual reproduction. Now listen to me carefully. In which cell division is plant is best? Mitosis cell division. So once the mitosis cell division, do the cell division in the cell, how many cells they will produce? Let's say they are producing new cells. So again the same cycle will be followed. Again the same cycle will be followed. So these cells, again they will produce new cells. Again they will come to the same position. This is what will happen, right? So this is not mentioned in your grade 11 textbook, but I'm teaching you in deeper, right? Okay, so here it's azan. Just give me around 2 minutes. Once the azan is over, I will continue. Until that, you can shoot out your doubts if you have any doubts. Okay, right. Let's continue. So now what you have to understand? You have to understand through the mitosis cell division only new cells are produced where? In the plant tissue. So this is what you have to understand, because when we are studying about the mitosis cell division, it will appear in your definition, right? So let's come to the two types of tissue. So let's talk about the two types of tissue so you will understand in detail. So listen to me carefully, okay? So we have two types of tissues. So what are the two types of plant tissues we have? One type of plant tissue, we call it as what? Meristematic tissue. We call it as what? Meristematic tissue. So other type of plant tissue, we call it as what? We call it as permanent tissue. We call it as permanent tissue. So I told you to remember meristematic tissue as a baby, right? Okay, so think as a baby. Now think adult. Okay, so permanent tissue is going to be an adult. Let's imagine it's going to be an old person. Let's say it's going to be like an old adult. Adult means we have to think someone where there is no growth. So now what you need to understand, now when you take baby, now let's say in reality, does the baby grow into a man or a woman? Yes. So which means, does the baby has a growth? Does the baby has a growth? Yes. They have a growth. So that means you have to understand, if they have a growth means, now we are talking about the meristematic tissue, right? So if they have a growth means, what do you need to understand? They will undergo cell division or they will not undergo cell division. I told you, if there is a person who is 2 kilogram, he is becoming 50 kilogram means what? Their body cells are increasing. So that means, what do you need to understand? If the body cells has to increase in the sense, what he has to undergo? Undergo cell division. So meristematic tissue, what do you need to understand? It undergoes what? Cell division. It undergoes cell division. Now tell me, what kind of cell division is it undergoing? What kind of cell division? It is mitosis cell division or meiosis cell division. What kind of cell division? It is mitosis. Now tell me, now a baby is an active person or it's not an active person? Now just think, if you take an old person and a baby, they who will be more active? More active, moving their body here and there, and they have so much of energy. Who is that? Baby. So that means we can say meristematic tissue is active, and they also undergo what kind of cell division? Mitosis cell division. Mitosis cell division. So once they undergo cell division, what are they producing? They are producing what? New cells. So this is what you have to understand from the meristematic tissue. Now I told, permanent tissue is what? Adult. Does the adult grow their height? Does their height grows? No. Their height will never grow. Will they have any growth after that? No. So that means we can say permanent tissue lost ability to undergo cell division. So that means they can't undergo cell division because they are old. They are old. So what is the definition for meristematic tissue? Meristematic tissue is the tissue which undergoes cell division actively by mitosis to produce new cells. That you call it as what? Meristematic tissue. So did you understand the definition of meristematic tissue? Yes. Did you understand the definition of meristematic tissue? So what is the definition of meristematic tissue? Meristematic tissue will undergo what? It will undergo cell division. Actively by what? Actively by mitosis. For what? To produce new cells. So that is the definition of meristematic tissue. So permanent tissue is opposite to the meristematic tissue. So we can say lost ability to undergo cell division. So that is the definition of permanent tissue. Are you clear with the definition? Yes. Are you clear with the definition? Yeah. Okay. Right. Now we are going to study the features of meristematic tissue. Now features in the sense, what do you mean by features? Now say if I'm talking about a baby, I will say this baby is this much of weight, baby can do this one, that one, the baby is living here and there. So this is what I'm talking about, the features. So if I'm going to describe about the tissue, so we are going to study the features of the meristematic tissue. So features are very important. In exam, they will ask you to write at least 4 to 3 features. So just because you have to remember that, you don't want to by heart that, I will explain in a way that you wanted to understand the features, okay? So listen to me. So listen to me carefully. So we are going to study the characteristics or the features of the meristematic tissue. So let's write it as features here. Okay, so let's write it as features. Okay, so listen to me. Now I'm going to compare the meristematic tissue with the baby. Okay, now let's say now a baby has been born. A baby has been born. Now, if I take the baby, let me write it in the corner. If I take the baby and this baby has been wrapped with a cloth, the baby has been wrapped with a cloth, and they don't know, they didn't say the gender. Now, will you be identify the baby by just looking at the face, whether it's a boy or a girl? Because boy baby, girl baby, they will all look same. So that means, can you differentiate them? No. So same like that, meristematic tissue, the first feature is you cannot differentiate the cell. But now just think about the baby. Is it a small baby? Baby small or big? It's small, right? So we can write as the first feature, small cells which cannot be differentiated. So small baby, I mean the small cells which cannot be differentiated. This is going to be the first feature, right? Now the second feature is, now just think about the babies, okay? I'm asking you. Now when we say about babies, now babies are living or non-living? They are living, right? So in a cell, if you wanted to identify the cell, it is a living thing, living cell or a non-living cell, you should have a organelle called nucleus. So if there is presence of nucleus only, we say this is a activated cell and all of them. So we have to understand meristematic tissue. This is how the meristematic tissue will look like. So meristematic tissue, they will have nucleus. They will have prominent nucleus. So prominent nucleus means you have to understand the nucleus into a certain size. It's living, it's certain size in the corner. So prominent nucleus present. Prominent nucleus present. Now, when you talk about the babies, do you always keep the babies in the open space, or you wrap it well, you keep it by protecting by the cold and heat, right? So that means, do you give space to the baby? No, you wrap it well. So which means now meristematic tissue is a tissue, right? It is made up of cells, right? These cells, they don't have any spaces between them. They are tightly packed. So which means we say no intercellular space. No intercellular space. So they do not have any intercellular space between them. So babies, they are very active. So that means, can you tell me, they need more energy, right? So what is the organelle that can give more energy for them? What is the powerhouse of the cell? Who is the powerhouse of the cell? Mitochondria. So we can write, what can we say? Large number of mitochondria present. Large number of mitochondria present. So large number of mitochondria is present, right? So come to the fifth one. Come to the fifth point. So now baby, does it drink milk or water? They drink milk. So which means, do they need water? No need. Same like that. Meristematic tissue, they don't need water, so they do not have vacuoles. So they do not have what? Vacuoles. So vacuoles means what? It's an organelle which contain high percentage of water. So they don't need what? They don't need vacuoles. Then finally, babies will be always light. Still their pigment is not out. We don't know what is their exact color. So which means same like that meristematic tissue, it will not look too greeny. It will look very, very light green, which means they do not have chlorophyll. So that means what is the organelle that does give the chlorophyll? Chloroplast. So they do not have chloroplast also. So they do not have the chloroplast, they do not have vacuoles, they do not have intercellular space, but they have large number of mitochondria, prominent nucleus, small cells which cannot be differentiated. So these are what? These are the characteristics or the features of meristematic tissue. Are you clear with that? Are you clear with that? Yes? Any doubts? Clear? Right. So you should not forget it. Just think as a baby. If you talk about if you're talking about the meristematic tissue, just imagine it as a baby. Okay, so baby have these features. So just write what you know. That's it. You will get your marks. So make sure you remember the features. Don't by heart, remember, because they will definitely ask you the features in your exams for sure. First term, you will face it, right? Then after that, second term, third term, they will not give priority for this lesson. You don't want this lesson much. If you just know, just like your lesson 10, not lesson 10, grade 10, lesson 1, chemical basis of life, like that, you will not care about this lesson anymore once you pass your first term. Once after the first term, this unit 1 will be like for you, it's easy peasy, you will not take it. You will not take it for granted, right? So listen to me. Now we have to study, there are 3 types of meristematic tissue according to the location. So what are the 3 types of meristematic tissue you are going to learn? So let's say you have 3 types of meristematic tissue. So number 1, you are going to study about the meristematic tissue. One, you call it as apical meristem. You call it as what? Apical meristem. Another type of meristematic tissue that you are going to study about, intercalary meristem. Intercalary meristem. Another type of meristematic tissue you are going to study, you call it as lateral meristem. Lateral meristem. So how many types of meristematic tissue you have? 3 types, but according to what? According to their location. So according to the locations only, they have given this name. So one is apical meristem, intercalary meristem, lateral meristem. So when we talk about the apical meristem, listen to me carefully. So apical meristem will be like, apex. Now we say apsara pencil. When we say the word apsara, when we say the word apex, if we say the word apex, what do you mean by apex? Means if you have a point like this. If you have a point like kind of a very sharp edge point like this, we call it as apex. From the word apex only, they created the word apical. Apical. So that means if you take the shoot, if you take the shoot of the plant, and if you take the root of the plant, the shoot of the plant and the root of the plant will have the shape like an apex part where it will keep on growing. So if you take the shoot apex of the plant and if you take the root apex of the plant, we call that as apical meristem. Now let's say if the shoot is growing like this, if the root is going like this, so one person is going upward, other person is going downward. So when they are going in opposite direction, what's happening to the length? I mean, what is happening to the plant? The plant height is increasing. So what is the function of the apical meristem? Increasing the height of the plant. So increasing the height of the plant is done by who? It's done by the apical meristem. So what's intercalary meristem? Now have you seen carrot? Now in the carrot, you have some like line things, right? In the carrot, especially in some grasses also you have this line. So you call these lines as nodes. We call it as nodes. So let's say the space between the nodes. Now you have heard about inter-school sports meet. So inter-school in the sense between the schools. We say inter-school sports meet mean between the schools you are having the sport. If I say inter-people, between the people. So if I have nodes between the space between the nodes, we call it as internode. We call it as what? Internode. Now what is this internode is doing? What is this node is doing? This node will go in this direction. This node will grow in the opposite direction. Now what will happen to the length of the internode? It will increase. So what's the function of the intercalary meristem? Increase the length of the internodes. So increase the length of the internodes. That is done by whom? That is done by the intercalary meristem. Come to the lateral meristem. So if you come to the lateral meristem, now especially the lateral meristem will be appearing where? It will be appearing in the dicot plant. Now what are the dicot plant? Dicot plant means what? Mango tree. Keep dicotyledonous plant as an example for mango tree. Now, if I take the stem of the mango tree and if I take the stem of the coconut tree, whose stem will be very, very thick stem? Whose stem will be thicker? Whose stem will be thicker? Its mango tree stem will be very thick, which means because of whom it's like that? Lateral meristem. So lateral meristem will be always present in what kind of plant? Dicotyledonous plant. So in the lateral meristem, you have a special cell. We call that as cambium. We call it as what? Cambium. So these cells are placed in the either side of the stem. It is placed in what? Either side of the stem. So what will happen when the cells number increases? The width of the stem will be increasing. So what is the function of the lateral meristem? Lateral meristem, they increase the width of the stem. So especially where you can find the lateral meristem? In the dicotyledonous plant. So listen to me carefully. What are the three types of plant we have? Three types of meristematic tissue. Number one, what do you have? Apical meristem. Number two, you have the intercalary meristem. Number three, you have the lateral meristem. So apical meristem is present where? Shoot apex and root apex. What is their function? Increasing the height. Intercalary meristem, but they will do intercalary meristem. They will be increasing the length of the internodes. What is the function of lateral meristem? Lateral meristem will be increasing the width of the stem. Especially what is the thing that is present inside the lateral meristem? Cambium cells. So this will come. You go to the grade 11, rest of the chapters, biology chapters, this word cambium will be repeated again and again. So you have to remember this name. Okay? Clear with that? Got the idea? Understood? Meristematic tissue is over. We are done with the meristematic tissue. Any doubts? Yes. Intercalary meristem is especially found in internodes, which means you see some lines on the grasses, you find some lines on the carrot. So these lines, we call it as the node. So what is happening is, let's say, if the node from here to here is big, what can you say? That particular vegetable or that particular grass will be very long. Why is it longer? Because of the internode. So internode is increasing the length. So when they increase the length, you see the grass, very long grasses. So this is what happened. So cambium is only present in dicot plant, not in monocot. It's not present in monocot. So dicotyledonous plant will only have the secondary sexual characteristics where you will have the cambium. Clear? This part cambium will be appearing in your unit 2 of your grade 11 back again. So if you're in my class, you will learn about it in detail. So, right. Are you clear with that? Got the idea? Any doubts? Yes. Any doubts? Right. So now we are moving forward with what? We are moving forward with the permanent tissue. So we will learn certain things about the permanent tissue and then we will be stopped and we will be discussing, right? Okay. So look here. So we are going to study about what? Permanent tissue. So after this, we are not going to talk about meristematic tissue. Meristematic tissue part is completely over. It's completely over, right? Okay, right. Now look here. Now, if you take the permanent tissue, so if you take the permanent tissue, so listen to me carefully. Permanent tissue is there, right? Permanent tissue. What did I say? I think it's an old person. So old person, will they have any growth? They will not have any growth. So which means they lost their ability for what? They lost their ability to undergo what? Cell division. So listen to me carefully. This is very important. So now what is happening is permanent tissue can be divided into two types. Look here, it can be divided into two types. So one type, you call it as simple permanent tissue. So simple permanent tissue in the sense it is made up of one type of cell. A permanent tissue, if it's only made up of one type of cell, we call it as simple permanent tissue. Then you have another type of permanent tissue. We call it as complex permanent tissue. So complex permanent tissue means if this tissue is made up of two or more cells, if it is made up of two or more cell types, then we call it as complex permanent tissue. So simple permanent tissue, again, it will be divided into three type of what? Three type of tissue. It will be again divided into three type of tissue. Complex permanent tissue, it will be divided into two type of tissue. So what is this simple permanent tissue? According to the shape of their cells, according to their features, they are being divided into three types of simple permanent tissue. So one you call it as parenchyma. Parenchyma, that's the first type of tissue. Then other one you call it as sclerenchyma. Sclerenchyma. Then you have the collenchyma. So what is the order of the tissue? What is the order? Parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma. So parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma are the types of the simple permanent tissue. So what are the types of the complex permanent tissue? Xylem tissue and phloem tissue. Xylem and phloem. So we will talk about the xylem and phloem later. Now we are going to compare these three tissues and we are going to learn. Especially we will study their features. We will study their functions. We will study their locations. So what are we going to learn? Their features, their shape, their whatever the things, the features we will be studying first. Functions, and then we will be studying about what? We will be studying about their locations, right? So now let's come to the simple permanent tissue. And to make sure, now in your textbook, they haven't given in a way that you will understand, but I will explain you. I will compare all three of them to make you understand. So listen to me carefully. So we are going to study about who? Simple permanent tissue. So let me take another color marker to write down the three types. So I'll write it short, okay? So parenchyma. Then you have the collenchyma. And you have the sclerenchyma. So parenchyma, collenchyma, and you have the sclerenchyma. So now listen to me carefully. I will tell you a easiest way to remember the features. So first thing is, if you are remembering the feature of the parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma, always you compare it and you learn. It's very easy. You compare all three of them together, you learn it. It's easy, okay? So think like this. Now, if the parenchyma becomes older, it will become collenchyma. If the collenchyma become older, it will become sclerenchyma. Think like that. So first stage of the child, second stage of the child, third stage of the child. Think like that. Okay. So what are the features we are going to discuss? First, we will talk about the shape of the cell. First, we will talk about what? Shape of the cell. Then we will talk about their cell wall. We will talk about their cell wall. Then we will talk about whether they have intercellular space, whether they have intercellular space between the cells. And then we will study whether they have the vacuoles. Well, you know the vacuoles, right? And then we will check whether they have nucleus. So remember, if a cell, if they have the nucleus, they are living cell. If they don't have nucleus, we will say it's a non-living cell. Keep it in your mind. So listen to me. So by using these features, 5 features, they haven't divided this in your textbook. They haven't given like this. They have just given you as a paragraph. So to make it easier, I have given you in this way. So what are the things we are going to compare? Parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma. We will be comparing. Especially the pictures are very important. Pictures are important. So let me use another color marker just to compare the colors. I mean, just to compare the shapes. I'll tell you the shapes. So here you can take the circle shape. Now I'll draw it over here. So let's say they have the circle shape like this. Like this. Okay, so then this parenchyma becoming matured, right? So it's between the sclerenchyma and the parenchyma, this collenchyma. So they will have like a closed shape. They will have like a closed shape. So one side is very, very thicker. It will be closed shape like this. So they will one part they will have the this one nucleus vacuole, but in the other part they will not have. Then sclerenchyma will be like completely. They will have a very, 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 very thicker part like this. They will have a very thick part like this. They will have nothing. They will not have vacuoles. They will not have the nucleus. I'll tell you why. Okay, so they are very, very thick and hollow-like structure. So listen to me. So if you are talking about the parenchyma, if the parenchyma becomes matured, it will become collenchyma. If the collenchyma becomes matured, we call it as what? Sclerenchyma. So this is how the maturity goes in the simple permanent tissue. So what is the shape of the parenchyma is? It's a circle shape. So we can say it's isodiametric shape. So we can say what? Isodiametric shape, or we can say it as spherical shape. We can take it as what? Spherical shape. Collenchyma now is the circle. That means the circle is becoming like a different closed shape, right? So we can say it's a polygonal shape. Polygonal shape means closed shape. You don't have a specific shape, but it's a closed figure. It's a closed figure, polygonal shape. Sclerenchyma, don't take it as a circle. It has an irregular shape. It has a irregular shape. So it's not circle, it's not polygonal, it's something else. So that is irregular shape. Now, first of all, I have to ask you a question. You studied in grade 10, right? You studied in grade 10, unit 1. Cell wall is made up of what? What it is made up of? It is made up of what? Cellulose. It is made up of a substance. We call it as cellulose. So here, what can you say about the cell wall? I mean, the outer part of the cell wall. Cell, what can you say? Is it thin cell wall or thick cell wall? What can you say? We can say they have a thin cell wall made up of what? Cellulose. It is made up of cellulose. Collenchyma, it can be slightly thick. It can be slightly thick. Okay, we can write it thick cell wall. Again, it's made up of cellulose, but here it's thicker than everyone. Sclerenchyma is having thicker than everyone. So if it is thicker than anyone in the sense, it will be thick, but the cellulose substance will turn into a new substance. We call it as the lignin. We call it as what? Lignin. Then intercellular space. So here you have the space. Here you have the space. So here you don't have space, but here you have the space. Here you have the space. So which means we can say here it's present. Here what we can say, may or may be present, because present, not present. So may or may be present. Sclerenchyma, not present. It's not present. So they do not, they are became very thick like a stuff. They do not have any space to allow anyone to enter. So that means sclerenchyma do not have the intercellular space. So what can you say about the vacuole? Present. Nucleus here, present. What can you say about the collenchyma? In this side you have the vacuole, you don't have here. Nucleus here, but you don't have. So again the same answer, may or may not be present, may or may not be present. Sclerenchyma, not present. Not present. Very simply, you can study the features of what? Parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma. Are you clear with the features? Are you clear with the features? Yes. Are you clear with the features? You got the idea of the features? Right, great. So now you understood the features of what? You understood the features of the parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma without by hearting. You don't want to write it into a paragraph. You can just understand these factors. Understand the factor, remember the pictures of them. Simply you can answer without by hearting. This is how you remember, right? Okay. So, where is the nucleus and vacuole in these tissues? It will be in the cells. In the cells, vacuole will be in the center. Nucleus will be in the corner. Okay? These are the places they will stay. Right. So now we are going to talk about the functions of the parenchyma. We are going to study what? We are going to study the functions of the parenchyma. So when we are talking about the functions of the parenchyma, first let me tell you the functions of the parenchyma in detail so you will understand. So let me tell you the locations. First, let me tell you the locations of the parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma. So parenchyma always present in the soft part of the plant. So where you can find the parenchyma? Where can you find the parenchyma? You can find it in the soft part of the plant. Soft part of the plant, especially you can take the potato. If you boil the potato, it's soft, right? So where you can find the parenchyma? You can find it in the aloe vera, fleshy part of the plant. You can find the parenchyma. So parenchyma always present in the soft part of the plant. Collenchyma is present in dicotyledonous. Let's mark it as dicot, plant, leaves, veins. So if you take the leaf veins, especially in the leaf veins, you find in the collenchyma. Then herbaceous plant. So herbaceous plant means if the plant has the green stem, especially like banana tree. So if they have the green stem like gotukola, banana, so those particular plants will have the collenchyma. Sclerenchyma is present in the rough part of the plant. Especially you find it where? In the woody stem. You find it in the woody stem. So woody stem, date seeds. If you take the seeds, mango seed, date seed, coconut shells, those hardest part of the plant, you find the sclerenchyma. So these are the places you find sclerenchyma. Now listen to me. If the parenchyma directly converted into sclerenchyma, without being collenchyma, we call it as sclerites. We call it as what? Sclerites. If the meristematic tissue directly become the sclerenchyma, we call it as sclerenchyma fiber. Sclerenchyma fiber. Where can you find it? In the coconut husk, date seed, the hardest part of the plant. You find these sclerites and sclerenchyma fiber. Are you clear with that? Are you clear with that before we go to the functions? Yes. Yes, Nuha. Yeah. So if the parenchyma directly converted into sclerenchyma without being collenchyma, now you are becoming 1 year old, 2 year old, 3 year old, like now here like parenchyma becoming collenchyma only becoming sclerenchyma, right? Now suddenly from 1 year old you are becoming 10 year old. Suddenly you're becoming matured. So parenchyma suddenly becoming sclerenchyma, suddenly becoming, what do you say, matured. We call that name as sclerites. If the meristematic tissue, it doesn't become a permanent tissue directly, step by step. If it directly becomes a sclerenchyma, we call it as sclerenchyma fiber. So you have to just remember these names, these examples for the sclerenchyma. Okay? Clear with that? Right. So now we are going to study about the functions of the parenchyma. It's very important. I think I have given in the tute also, I guess. Okay, right. So let's study about the functions. Once we are done with the functions of the parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma, we'll stop from there. Right? Okay. Look here. Okay, right. Look here. So now we are going to study the functions of the parenchyma. So look at the board very carefully. I said you that parenchyma is present in the soft, fleshy part of the leaves and plants, right? Like if you take the aloe vera, potato, so those places you find the parenchyma. So if I am saying, if I take the leaf and if I cut the leaf like this, we say it as cross section of the leaf. If I take the cross section of the leaf and if I if I take it under the microscope, I will see something like this, the leaf cross section. I will see something like this. This is important. So you will see something like this inside the leaf. If you take the cross section under the microscope, let me draw it, okay? And like this. And then you will have like this. Okay, so let's say this is the upper part of the leaf. We call it as cuticle, your leaf cuticle. And this part of the leaf, we call it as upper epidermis. You call it as upper epidermis. Epidermis. And this you call it as palisade parenchyma. So it is a parenchyma. Inside the leaf, you have a parenchyma tissue. We call it as palisade parenchyma inside the leaf. And the other one, we call it as spongy mesophyll. You can call it as spongy mesophyll or spongy parenchyma. I'll write it as spongy parenchyma to make sure you remember. So, and you have again here lower epidermis. You have the lower epidermis. You have like a cashew nut. You call it as the guard cells. You call it as guard cells. Okay, you call it as guard cells. Between the guard cells, we call it as stomata. You know what is stomata? You have studied in grade 8, lesson stomata. So stomata is a path where the gas exchange will be taken place in a leaf. So this is where carbon dioxide is entering. Oxygen will come out through the stomata. So now what is happening is in the palisade parenchyma and spongy mesophills, you have chlorophyll. You have chlorophyll in it. So now tell me, if there is presence of chlorophyll, what is the function that will be taken place by that plant? What is that? Photosynthesis. So the first function of the parenchyma is photosynthesis. Photosynthesis. So they can ask you in exam which part of the parenchyma is undergoing photosynthesis. That is spongy parenchyma and palisade parenchyma. In your textbook, they have only given this name, but they didn't tell you what is it. So some people, they will try to by heart this name because they don't know what is it. They don't have time to research about it. So that is what I drew this one. So what do you need to understand? Palisade parenchyma, where the tissue inside the leaf who does the photosynthesis, and spongy parenchyma is also one who does the photosynthesis inside the leaf. Clear with that? Got the idea? So this is where the photosynthesis is taken place inside the parenchyma. So that is going to be the first function of the parenchyma. So what is the second function of the parenchyma? They will do the storage of food. Storage of food. So especially who can store food? Like potatoes, they can store food. They can act as a storage organ. Then what is the third function we can say? Store water. They can store water. Now, if you take the plants like aloe vera, cactus, if you take some bryophyllum, if you take these kind of plants, they can store water. So what do you call these plants as? Aloe vera. Do you want to water it every day? Aloe vera, do you put water to them every day? Every day you put water to it? No. They can live with the little amount of water. Even though it's a drought season, they can still live because they are called as xerophytic plant. What do we call them as? We call it as xerophytic plant. So xerophytic plant means what? The plant who can survive with less amount of water, very less percentage of water. So that is what we call it as xerophytic plant. So this xerophytic plant can store high percentage of water. So the example for the storage of water under the parenchyma is what? Xerophytic plant like aloe vera, cactus. These can be the answer. Then finally, the final function of the parenchyma is mechanical support. So mechanical support means, let's say now you take a straw. If you take a straw and if you bend the straw, this straw will be bending, right? But when you drink water from the straw, what will happen? The straw will become very straight and it will be rigid, right? It will be very strong and straight. So why is that? Because of the presence of water. Same like that, parenchyma has vacuoles inside them. Inside the stem of the plant, they have vacuoles. So what is this vacuole is doing? Vacuole contains water. So because of the water, the plant is standing straight. Instead, they are sleeping like this. So that's why all the plant in the earth, it's standing because of what? Mechanical support. So this is going to be the fourth function of the parenchyma. So these are the functions. Number one, photosynthesis. Number two, storage of water, storage of food. And then finally, mechanical support. So this is going to be the function of parenchyma. Then what is the function of collenchyma? So collenchyma function is easy, same as the parenchyma. Only two functions they have. So collenchyma function is going to be photosynthesis. It's going to be photosynthesis and mechanical support. Mechanical support because it is green color. Herbaceous stem does photosynthesis. Then if you take the sclerenchyma, woody stem, do they have chlorophyll? They're already dead. So what can you say? But you have seen the plant, the trees who lives for long are the strongest one. Why? Because they have the high mechanical support. So the only function of sclerenchyma is what? Mechanical support. So collenchyma will do the photosynthesis and it will do the mechanical support. Sclerenchyma will have only one function, that is mechanical support. So what did we learn today? Today we learned what is the tissue and we learned the types of tissue in the plant tissue. Then we studied about the meristematic tissue. Then we studied one type of the permanent tissue. So almost we are going to complete the plant tissue. So let's stop from here. Okay, so what you have to do is once the class is over, you have to try to do the past paper question, whatever you learned right now today. Okay, and also if you are a person who has not been, or if you don't have the question books, or if you don't have the short notes, you can just drop me a text. I will send you, I will help you anytime. And yeah, and also, if you wish to join the class, every Wednesdays we have the classes 8:30 p.m. till the 10 to 10:30. And also we have 8 classes per month. So not 4 classes per month, 8 classes per month along with the revision classes. So I will update all the details. So it's just 2,200 if you're only joining the grade 11 and the revision. If you're joining the grade 10, grade 11 and the revision, it's going to be 2,500. So I will provide you all the details about the classes and everything. So see you on the next class. So have a good day. Take care. Thank you so much for joining today's session. It's every Wednesday. Today is Wednesday, right? So every Wednesday we have our grade 11 class. Pleasure. It's not for free. It's our theory class. So already we had a trial class today. So if you are enrolling, you can enroll, inshallah. Okay, Barakallah. Take care.